Randall Garrison, this guy from Esquimalt, Saanich, Sooke area. He has gone on to say some pretty outstanding, ridiculous things about parents and parents' rights, which is very concerning. Let's take a look. You can switch over, Ron.
Do you view this as a parental rights issue at all?
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, there's no such thing as parental rights. In Canada, there are parental responsibilities. And in Canadian family law, the primary responsibility of parents is to support and affirm their kids. Children have rights in Canada, and these kind of policies restrict the rights that children have in Canada.
So there we go, some crazy overstepping. I don't understand how anybody could say that to the public and expect no backlash, to suggest that parents don't have rights and children's rights are more important than the concerns of parents. To try and pretend that we understand this trans issue to any degree is crazy. It's a lie. It's starting to affect a lot of families. I can't imagine how difficult a lot of these decisions that these families are having to make. I mean, I just don't understand how somebody could pretend parents don't have rights. I mean, the damage that these medications and these procedures, and I mean, not only just the physical damage that's happening to these kids, but the mental damage. These kinds of things are going to damage these kids' self-esteem as they move from one incredibly hard decision to another incredibly hard decision. I mean, that's just not the decisions kids should be making. Kids shouldn't be thinking about what gender they are. They should be worried about how to survive high school and elementary school. Too many of these kids don't have a clue what they are thinking. They have no clue. You know, so many of these children are being raised in single-parent homes. Parents have to work. Dad's not around. These kids come home to empty houses. They have nobody to influence them. So who influences them? Their friends. And stupid Disney movies and propaganda that they see on television. And all the trends. And of course, these bot farms that have been utilized to sway public opinion. I mean, it's so obvious that they're using these things to sway public opinion. A child's rights are determined by their parents. Human rights are for everybody. That has no bearing on your age at all. But what a child learns, the ideology that they live their lives by, is a parent's right to control and ensure that they aren't being somehow coerced or manipulated at school. I mean, imagine your child going to school while you're off paying the bills, working your ass off to pay for this incredibly difficult time that we're all living in, and you send your child off to school only to be coerced into believing that they are the wrong gender and that they are in the wrong body. And now these NDP and liberals are going to start telling us that these kids get to decide this and they can do it without the parents' permission? I mean, that's fucking criminal. That's criminal. And I don't think anybody in Canada should stand for it. And I don't think anybody in Canada should be taking this lightly and not paying attention. If you don't have kids, you should still be paying attention. If you don't have kids, you should still be worried. Because you know what? It's not just these kids' futures that are going to be dramatically affected by this. It's our entire society. Our entire society is going to be dramatically affected by a generation of youth that are so emotionally damaged that the only answer for them in the future will be to sit in their little cubicle with their video games and their porn and their snacks and their delivery services that bring them everything, because everybody is going to be so insecure that all they will do is tune into other people's lives. We're going to be zombies. The world is going to turn into a planet of zombies. And, you know, who knows? Maybe that's what George Romero was trying to tell us. Maybe he was trying to tell us that we're all just going to give up. We're all just going to abandon doing the hard and the right thing. And we're just going to succumb to the easy life because, you know what? If you can't beat them, you join them. And that's what the zombie metaphor could potentially mean. You're just destined to join them. We'll quickly try and see if we can touch on this Joe Biden bonehead. We'll start with Biden on Seth Myers. They're trying to make Biden look cool. They're trying to make him look as cool as possible right now because he's not cool. We all know that. But I got to say, it was pretty funny what Jesse Waters, he said on Fox News. Let's switch over to this video, Ron. This is pretty funny.
Now, if I were Biden and I was losing to Trump and my party wanted to put me out to pasture and swap me out for a younger, better-looking liberal, the Mideast and Europe were at war and migrants are murdering our women, the last thing I would do, go out for ice cream with a comedian and then lick it when they ask about the border.
Why make a border now, Mr. President? You're going on Thursday. Why don't
I've been planning to go Thursday. What I didn't know is my good friend apparently is going.
Seth Myers took his grandpop out for ice cream to make him feel better for forgetting his lines. Here you go. Good job, Joe. You want a sugar cone? You know who...
Oh, man, that is too funny. That is too funny. Jesse Waters just crushed that one. But, I mean, look at the guy. Look at the guy. Oh, he literally looks like he has been on a day pass from the old folks' home, really actually going for ice cream with his grandson or something. And he looked overjoyed to be getting ice cream. And Jesse Waters was talking about how old folks' homes have confirmed that one of the best things you can give senior citizens to calm them is ice cream. And what does Seth Myers do after Biden appears on his show, which was clearly staged for, cooling Biden up? But we'll take a look at a little clip of Biden on Seth Myers here and see if they actually make him look cool.
The president got a warm reception when he stopped by Seth Myers' late-night talk show.
We're currently 81 years old.
Who the hell told you that?
Yeah.
The question of his age came up, and he deflected it at Donald Trump.
You got to take a look at the other guy. He's about as old as I am, but he can't remember his wife's name.
Yeah.
He was referring to a moment from a Trump speech on Saturday when he appeared to refer to Melania as Mercedes.
Mercedes, that's pretty good.
Turns out he was actually speaking to his communications director, Mercedes Schlapp, off stage. After their interview, Biden and Myers went out for ice cream. But
it was so scripted. It was so scripted. Every one of his answers was instant. And we all know Biden doesn't answer questions without humming and hawing. This was the most scripted thing I've ever seen. It was pathetic. I cannot believe Seth Myers is such a tool. Like, what a tool. To know that you are going to try and fool America. You're going to try and fool America and the world into believing that he didn't script that and that wasn't completely rehearsed. That was so obvious. Seth Myers has been very vocal over the years about his disdain for Trump. It's crazy when half the country and half the world believes Trump is the answer, to have all these late night talk show hosts believe one universal thing. Where is the talk show host late at night that actually talks positively about a Republican candidate or Republican president? It just makes it so obvious that there's a machine working right now. And Seth Myers is working for it. Jon Stewart's working for it. And of course, Stephen Colbert, he's the worst of the worst. I cannot believe that rant he had about Trump a while back. Let's take a look. Let me see if I can find that.
Look, I know how numb we've become, but it's not normal. No other candidate for the presidency has ever had to pause his campaign to defend himself in multiple courts. And I would like to point out that in all 7 of his cases, no one doubts that he did these things. We're just sitting around patiently waiting to find out if the wheels of justice will grind fast enough for there to be any consequences. And the media is covering it like it's any other political story, like it's all horse race. But in this horse race, one of the horses is old. Well, one of the horses is old, has hoof and mouth disease, and keeps quoting Horse Hitler.
That is the most divisive monologue I've ever heard. I mean, he said it plain and simple. Half the country wants this guy in, and here he is, bashing them. I mean, he's no different than obviously Jon Stewart. I don't know how Stephen Colbert got Letterman. I've never have been a fan of Stephen Colbert. I think he's the most obnoxious television host ever. I mean, he had a few laughs back in the day when he had the Daily or whatever, but can't believe that people watch this guy still. I thought he was done. I thought him and Kimmel were done when they basically exposed who they were during COVID. I thought they were done. Let's talk about Justin Trudeau, our favorite prime minister. Good old Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau. He did a podcast recently that was a bit of a joke. It's like here he is criticizing Tucker. And what does Trudeau do to go do an interview? He handpicks this liberal shill to do a podcast with. Jordan Peterson posted something on his X, a quick synopsis of what he said. If you want to get angry, stay tuned. Watch this video.
There is out there a deliberate, undermining of mainstream media. There are the conspiracy theorists, there are the social media drivers who are trying to do everything they can to keep people in their little filter bubbles, to prevent people from actually agreeing on a common set of facts, the way, the CBC and CTV, when they were our only sources of news, used to project across the country at least a common understanding of things.
What a goober. So this guy's trying to tell us that the mainstream media is being undermined, when we all know the mainstream media has been working specifically for the Liberal government, in Canada especially. And this guy's trying to pretend that the mainstream media is being framed in a bad light. This is the same guy who's working pretty hard to ban free speech. He's got this new online harms bill that would force major online services to quickly take down harmful sexual content. That's sort of the basis of this claim. But then when you look a little deeper and you realize that there's a lot of gray area that they can change and manipulate, what they determine is considered hate speech. And the crazy part is they're going to select a commission of 5 people to oversee what is deemed inappropriate. It's called the New Digital Safety Commission. To oversee this new regulatory regime, the Field Canadians Related Complaints Bill C-63 proposes to create a new organization that would include a 5-person digital safety commission and an independent digital safety ombudsperson as part of a digital safety office. The commission will be tasked with administering and enforcing the government's new rules and online services accountable. It will have the power to order the removal of the types of sexual content that fall under the 24-hour takedown. And according to Virani, in an effort for cross-partisan backing, the appointment of the chair will be voted on in Parliament. This stuff is pretty vague. It's pretty scary. I mean, there's fines that could be implemented on people. So it says, through changes to the Canadian Human Rights Act, the bill proposes to make it clear that posting hate speech online is discrimination and sets out to create a new process for assessing hate speech complaints. This includes empowering the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal to adjudicate disputes and to order the poster to remove the hate speech and compensate victims identified in the hate speech up to $20,000. What is determined hate speech, and who determines that? What seems to be the most likely outcome is hate speech will be determined by the Liberal government. Hate speech will be considered hate speech if it says anything bad or poor about the Liberal government. I mean, you've got France. It's already basically said it's illegal to talk negatively about vaccines. I mean, that's madness to think that now people are going to be punished for speaking against taking a experimental drug. You know, I've had people on a few of my last videos comment saying I'm on the wrong side of history and Canada is this free country and, oh, you wouldn't last a minute in Russia. I'm not saying that I would like to move to Russia, but I'm definitely saying that we ain't free in Canada. It's not free. Anybody who thinks it's free is an absolute beta male. You know, you're just a straight beta. If you think you're free, that's slave mentality. That's slave mentality. To think that you actually live free, no. You're a slave. You're a slave. And you're working in a liberal system that's being designed to put us all in little cubicles and live single and independent, void of joy and love, obsessed with pleasure and instant gratification. That's the country you're working towards. That's the country you're about to create. Just look around you. Look around you. There's nobody jumping for joy in the streets at the moment. People are broke. They're afraid of what's going to happen in the United States. They're afraid of what's happening in Russia. Everything right now is falling apart. And the only thing Justin Trudeau seems to care about is making sure that nobody can talk negatively about the Liberal Party. Trudeau went to Vancouver to talk about a new housing project, which is insane. Justin Trudeau proposed a new federal housing project in Vancouver to build rental units. Yes, I said that, rental units for middle-class families. how can this be the goal? How can the goal be to help middle-class families rent property for life? That's saying that, okay, the middle class has now become project classes. To think that the middle class can no longer afford to purchase and buy a home, so the liberal government is now creating housing projects for the middle class. That's what you voted for. That's what the liberals are going to continue to push for. Would it be so impossible to create these homes so that potentially they could be rent-to-own units? Wouldn't that help our troubled citizens a lot better if perhaps they could invest into their future, invest into something that would allow them to build generational wealth that they could pass down to ensure that they become successful Canadians? But no, I don't think that's what they want. The liberal government does not want you to own property. They want you to own nothing and be happy. Don't forget that. And don't forget that the World Economic Forum just had a meeting talking about rebuilding trust. You cannot trust anything right now. The World Economic Forum is working towards rebuilding trust. So you have to start looking at these typically liberal organizations and start asking questions as to why are they trying to bridge the gap now? Because a lot of these networks are starting to bridge the gap. They're starting to lull you into a sense of relaxation so that they can surprise you with something else. I can promise you that. If we take our guard down for a moment, you're going to be surprised by something even worse. And that could be the cyber pandemic. It could be a civil war breakout. Who the hell knows? But this control and this overreach for power by the liberal government has to stop. I don't know if Pierre Poilievre, whatever his fucking name is the answer. I like the guy so far, but, you know, the fact that he took so long to denounce the World Economic Forum. You know, I remember back during 2020 or 2021, I was profusely asking him questions about the WEF in his comments before he had tons of comments. And he would never address them. You know, I'd be one of maybe 50, 60 comments, and they would never address them. And I thought, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. And then to find out, you know, when you do your homework, that even Pierre is apparently linked to the World Economic Forum in his own way. And he's only denouncing it now. It sounds like he's denouncing it because he has to. And I'm just hoping that that's absolutely wrong. Doesn't matter if it is, because realistically we have to vote for Pierre anyway, because even if he is working for the World Economic Forum, he has to pump the brakes on the damage that's been done by the liberals. And it'll buy us some time to potentially find somebody that's actually going to make a difference. Because right now, the country is bleeding, and it is bleeding bad, and we need to stop the bleeding. And the only person that seems to be in line to do that is Pierre Poilievre. I hope that we can have an election soon. I hope that that weasel, Justin Trudeau, is no longer a face we have to see. Very sad to think that the liberals are going to start pushing for projects for the middle class. Like, what the fuck is that? The middle class is now never going to own property. That's just wonderful. Let's keep the liberals in power. Fucking hurrah.